Hi, I'm Andre Huie, and welcome to the 2024 recap edition of From the Sidelines. We're coming to you from Warner Park Cricket Stadium. As you can see, the stadium in the background, and I'm here with my partner in crime. We always take this time out every year to review sports in St. Kitts and Nevis, the wider Caribbean, and internationally. Loshaun Dixon from the St. Kitts Nevis Observer. Loshaun, Happy New Year. Welcome.
Yes, thanks for having me again. I can't believe it's been a year already.
Wow,
We're back here again. So,
yeah, back here again.
Yeah, happy to be here again.
Indeed. Well, so much has happened in the world of sports for 2024. We're going to start with cricket because we're here at the cricket stadium, the iconic Warner Park Cricket Stadium. So much happened on this grounds last year. We had CPL, we had the Leeward Islands Cricket tournament starting back and having its first showing here. We had School and Smooth Cricket playing here. We had West Indies coming here. And of course, in January, we're going to have the women's team coming with Bangladesh. Your thoughts on cricket in St. Kitts and Nevis for 2024?
Well, for 2024, I thought it was a special year for cricket because it's the year when we finally got someone on the West Indies team to play Test cricket, Huie. I know we'll go more in depth into that later on, but we saw him put on some special performances
right here at Warner Park.
Here at Warner Park for the Leeward Islands, which ultimately led to his selection. We saw Jazara Claxton getting a hat trick in the women's tournament. That was here with the
right,
for the Leeward
yes,
Islands.
for the Leeward Islands, yes.
We saw, as you said, the Cool and Smooth tournament, which was won by the Molyneux Blue Runners, a team that I was a part of.
Congratulations, by the way.
Yes, and we also saw the West Indies coming here and defeating Bangladesh, whitewashing Bangladesh in a 50-over tournament.
Some great performances on this ground too.
Yes, great performances. We saw the CPL where the Patriots didn't do so well, but they were very well supported. Huie again did very well for them. And we also saw the Leeward Islands tournament.
Leeward Islands tournament,
Yeah,
that's
the Leeward
correct.
Islands tournament where the St. Kitts team fell short of winning it.
They made it to the final round though. They were in pole position. If they won that game, they'd have won the tournament. Yeah.
Where they lost it just to Antigua, so it's been
rivals.
a good year for cricket.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's start with Huie because that obviously is the biggest sporting story for St. Kitts Nevis.
The Leeward Islands tournament.
Leeward Islands tournament,
Yeah,
that's
the Leeward
correct.
Islands tournament where the St. Kitts team fell short of winning it.
They made it to the final round though. They were in pole position. If they won that game, they'd have won the tournament. Yeah.
Where they lost it just to Antigua, so it's
been
a good year for cricket.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's start with Huie because that obviously is the biggest sporting story for St. Kitts Nevis. Finally, after over 100 years, St. Kitts Nevis St. Kitts in particular, has its first player selected for the West Indies team, Huie, and that was on the back of some excellent performances here at Warner Park in the 4-day competition. Talk to us about it because you've seen Mikhail's growth, you've seen how he worked his way up, and of course, coming from a family of cricketers as well, to be in this position, to finally being selected, what that moment means for St. Kitts in particular.
Well, I felt it was special because many before him came. People thought they should have, but they fallen short ultimately. But what he achieved in the end, I don't think no one could have doubted his selection. Firstly, because he had the ones to back it up. He had the performances. He did it here at Warner Park in the early part of the competition. He went to Jamaica and did it. He went to Trinidad and did it. So there was no questioning his selection. He went to England. He had a rough start. He got a half century ultimately in the third test, I think. He came back to the Caribbean with the West Indies team. He got a 97 against Bangladesh. It should have been 100. He got too far to not get to that milestone of Test cricket. He'll be off to Pakistan starting next week, where he'll be playing a Test series there. So I can't complain with what he achieved for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. I used to talk about his growth as a cricketer. I remember him when he first came along with his brothers, his two older brothers who were doing well as young people, but then you saw this younger, fresh-faced boy, and then to see him go over the years from a nice little leg spinner to a top order batsman. is what dreams are made of.
Indeed. And let's not forget, he's talking about his brothers. That his brother Jeremiah
Jeremiah as well.
got drafted in.
He got drafted into the tour of England.
Right.
He didn't get to play, but hopefully there will be a space for him and a future West Indies tour somewhere.
What do you think now this means for cricketers in St. Kitts? Because we've always had divisions, some great division cricketers who've played for the West Indies. Mikael being the first from St. Kitts. How does this now open the door for other St. Kitts cricketers to get into West Indies?
Well, it shows them that there's definitely a path there once you put in the work like he has done. And once you back that up with the runs and the performances like he did, that there's definitely a path there for you. So it's for you to take the bull by the hand, take your opportunities and use them constructively.
Yeah. Let's shift from Mikael a bit. And of course, well, before we move from Mikael, he did play for the Patriots, the St. Kitts Patriots, right here in front of the home crowd, had some excellent performances.
Yeah.
I remember one of the games which we came close to winning. He was one of the star batsmen. He scored close to a century in that game.
Yeah.
Talk to us about what it means for a young cricketer like him playing in front of the home fans, playing for the home franchise, and playing so well.
Well, it must be something that will evoke patriotism within him, to know that people come out and people will be cheering him and people would want to see him in the playing 11 all the time, and it also encourages the franchise, not only the St. Kitts Patriots franchise, but other franchises within the CPL and elsewhere, that we have talent here that could be used and could be drafted in and used and still be competitive, still remain competitive. So that's something to look forward to, because I could even remember one time when we were interviewing the coach, he said he was not familiar with how good Mikael Louie was.
Yeah,
and
I remember he said that.
And that's something that...
And that was on the back of an excellent performance of Warner Park. Yeah,
yes, so that's something that we need. We need the Patriots franchise more so, but others within the CPL to have a look at what we have here locally, not only in St. Kitts, but also in Nevis, where we have some good cricket talent coming through.
Yeah. Before we get to the other domestic competitions that were played here, let's talk about the Cool and Smooth, because this was the first time it came to St. Kitts, and the organizers were looking to bring it back here as well. Your thoughts, you participated in that tournament, your thoughts on how that tournament went and the excitement of T20 cricket, international T20 cricket, because it was beamed to an international audience, but teams locally playing in that.
Well, it was a good experience. It was an enjoyable experience. Not because we won it, but the whole tournament and a whole was quite fun. It was something different, where you had six franchises from both St. Kitts and Nevis, and captains drafting their players. So we would have had players who probably would have played with Molyneux in the local competitions, now playing with St. Paul's or something like that. So it was a good experience to have cricketers come together and participate in this tournament. In the end, the Molyneux Blue Runners won. We saw some top performances from some players like Carl and Tuckett, who's another top cricketer to look out for from Nevis. So it's a good experience. It's a good tournament. It's a good idea. It's a good backing. But hopefully they could work out the chinks and come back like this year.
And in a stronger fashion.
Yes.
Yeah, but it seems from what the organizers are saying that it's going to be a permanent fixture, all being well in St. Kitts. So you have it in Antigua because it's traditionally from Antigua. But they're looking to spread it here in St. Kitts. And as you said, it was good. I was impressed to see the local clubs come out in the numbers they did and compete. You know, it was very exciting cricket, so that's good. So moving from that, you also had the Sidelines cricket playing here, and you mentioned St. Kitts came very close to winning it. It was a very nail-biting finish against Antigua and Barbuda. And they are two rivals too, domestic rivals in cricket. Your thoughts on how that went?
Well, disappointed that St. Kitts couldn't pull out the tournament win. But in the end, I was proud with some of the performances that the players were able to deliver. And we saw people like Mikael Louie playing in that tournament as well, doing well again, was cementing himself again in a place in the Huie Islands tournament. We saw people like Terence Ward, who was one of the players of the tournament, captaining St. Kitts for the first time in this tournament. This tournament also led to people like Jail Clark and Cameron Pennyfeather getting chances, getting opportunities to be a part of the Leeward Islands franchise. So it definitely brought out some of the best from of these St. Kitts players, but across the wider Leeward Islands.
Right, indeed. And of course, we ended the year with West Indies competing here in the Bangladesh series, which again was a whitewash for West Indies. An excellent performance from them. And we saw a debutant, Django, scoring was it a century he scored? Or
Yeah,
close?
century,
Yes,
a
scored a
century.
century.
Yeah.
And actually the highest score for a debutant for the West Indies.
Yeah, and funnily enough, Amir Django, he played his trade here at Warner Park with the Leeward Islands a few years ago. He did well for the Leeward Islands. He went back home to his native Trinidad, where he continued to do well and eventually became a West Indies player for this 50-over series. And you saw what he did here at Warner Park, a ground he would be familiar with.
Yeah, I remember the commentators saying in that game that he was inspired at competing as a junior here and also in the Leeward Islands setup. He was inspired to up his game. And it was from his experience here playing for the Leewards and playing at Warner Park that he got inspired to do that. So it's not surprising that he came on this very grounds on his debut and scoring so well. And finally, we also saw some women's cricket action here early in the year. We saw, you mentioned Jazara Claxton, who by the way is doing excellently on the stage. She's been going to Malaysia soon for the ICC Under-19. But your thoughts on women's cricket and the fact that Warner Park, and again, we're going to see that happening this year as well, where women's cricket is coming to Warner Park. Your thoughts on how women's cricket is developing in the West Indies, how Jazara Claxton is blossoming in the sport, and how Warner Park is playing a very important role in that regard.
Yeah, well, let's start at the last one first. Warner Park seems to be the home for women's cricket. The last 2 seasons, we've seen the women's tournament being held here. Jazara Claxton has been participating in those tournaments, and she has been doing very well. In the last tournament, she got a hat-trick in the final over of a game against, I think it was against Guyana. And I think that was the first ever victory for the Leeward Islands in the T20 aspect of the women's tournament. So that's something to look out for. And as you said, she's now off to Malaysia with the West Indies Under-19. But not only her from St. Kitts, but Aliyah Weeks, another young fast bowler from St. Paul's, who's off with her with the West Indies Under-19 team and will be participating in the Under-19 Women's Under-19 World Cup starting later this month.
Yeah, well, congratulations, Jazara and Aliyah, for representing the Federation on that international stage and doing well. I expect big things from Jazara. I really am. I mean, she is a very consistent young lady. She obviously has found her niche. She had a choice, because remember the last show when we spoke last year, we said that she had a choice between football, track and field, and cricket. But she seems like she's taking the cricket path quite seriously.
Yes, and she is also a member of the West Indies Women's Academy. They're based in Antigua, so she also has that up their sleeve. They're contracted and they go to Antigua. They train daily basis in Antigua. But even behind her, there are young cricketers here, female cricketers, who train on a daily basis here, right here at Warner Park, at the back there in the Len House Cricket Academy.
Wow, fun. Well, we expect to see some big names coming out of St. Kitts in women's cricket. Excellent. All right, before we go to our break, I want us to touch quickly on, and we're going to talk more later on about regional cricket, West Indies in terms of its performance and what we can anticipate from West Indies. But with all the local cricket that we're seeing played, all the cricket we're seeing played here at Warner Park, can we expect for 2025, and I'm hopefully going to speak with the president of the Cricket Association here, but can we expect more domestic cricket action at whether it be Warner Park or Connery or anywhere else for that matter?
Hopefully so, because I was quite disappointed that we didn't see more local cricket as we would say.
Especially coming off the back of all these tournaments happening
we
here.
Didn't see that, and I definitely believe that we need to find room to have those tournaments, to have those local domestic tournaments, especially amongst the females who don't necessarily have the same experience of playing as the males, because practicing is one thing, practicing in the nets is one thing, but doing it out on the field is something totally different. So hopefully we can see some more local cricket, not just for males, but for females as well.
All right. Well, we are going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk some football. A lot of action in football in 2024 here in St. Kitts Nevis. We'll have all that when we come back from the break.
Are you tired of Wi-Fi dead zones in your home? The Cable has the ultimate solution with our whole home Wi-Fi coverage. Say goodbye to frustrating signal drops and hello to seamless connectivity in every corner of your home. No more
Mom, my tablet's not working in my bedroom. My game is freezing, Daddy.
or WhatsApp calls dropping as you walk around the house. So many people struggle with dead zones and restricted Wi-Fi, and the Cable has the answer. Enjoy full blanket increased Wi-Fi coverage with installation in 48 hours or less. Whole home Wi-Fi coverage is here. Get the whole family connected today. Come in or call the Cable at 465-2588 to get your whole home Wi-Fi boost installed. The Cable, always giving you more. Terms and conditions apply.
The SKN Newsline website now offers you more news. Log on to www.sknnewsline.com for local, regional, and international news. You can also watch the latest newscast and keep abreast with news in sports, all from sknnewsline.com. That's www.sknnewsline.com. News at your fingertips.
Good day to the beautiful people of St. Kitts and Nevis. St. Martin News Desk now airs on
Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays on TVC.
at 11 a.m. and then again at 5 p.m. So,
Make sure to tune in.
And we're back here on From the Sidelines, the 2024 year interview edition, right here on TVC Channel 40. I'm your host, Andre Huie, and my guest and panelist is Mr. Loshaun Dixon from the St. Kitts Nevis Observer. Before the break, we spoke extensively about cricket locally here in St. Kitts Nevis. So much cricket activities happening, from CPL to Cool and Smooth to Leeway cricket, the whole works. Now we're going to turn our attentions to football, because football is a major sport here in St. Kitts Nevis, and so much happened in football for 2024. I guess where we'll start, Loshaun, is the fact that if we go to the top flight, the Premier League, well, even before we talk about the winners, we should talk about the fact that National Bank Group of companies have come on board once again to sponsor, and this time a multi-year sponsorship deal with the St. Kitts Nevis Football Association. That is a major deal for football.
Yes, it's a major deal. It will provide much needed financing for local football, the local leagues and players. But not only that, I think they would have gotten their mileage and their money's worth because of how the tournament played out in the end, how competitive it was. And so I think it's a good win-win situation for all parties involved.
Yeah, and that on the back of that success, they had they came up with the Council Cup, the National Bank Group of Companies Live Your Life Council Cup, which I understand was as a result of the teams wanting to have some football played in the break between when the league ends and when it restarts. And so that went well, and we're going to talk more about that later on. But let's talk about St. Paul. St. Paul's winning, SL Horses St. Paul's winning the Premier League. Now, this was a league where St. Paul's didn't start off with the best.
Yeah.
They didn't start off the best. They had a rocky start, then they picked themselves up, had a good first round. Second round, they were like sliding. We thought, man, is St. Paul's even going to make the playoffs? Because now we've moved back to the Final Four. There was concerns whether St. Paul's were even going to make the playoffs. They did, and they won the league.
Yes, and I guess that's the mark of champions, where even when it's not going your way, even when it's not going how you wanted it to, you find a way to pull through and win another title. This team can be considered a dynasty for what they have achieved over the last few years. They, as you said, they didn't start well. They lost the President's Cup. Then they had a good first round in the end. They ended up winning the first round. And then they had a slide to start the second round. I think it was 6 games without a victory.
Yeah.
And then they picked it up at the back end of the competition. They got into the Final Four. They went to the finals of the FA Cup, lost that. But put that behind them before the start of the playoffs to go on to win the playoffs convincingly. Even in the playoffs, they had a few shaky moments. If I could remember, I think they didn't win the first game, and then they were down to Cairn in one game, and then they turned it around to make the finals, and win another championship.
Yeah.
I've lost count as to the amount of
It's
championships
unbelievable.
they won.
I mean, as you said, it's a mark, the mark of champions. St. Paul's is just amazing that they changed coach too, by the way, because
Yep.
their long-time coach has
The
left.
Rookie coach.
Right, a rookie coach coming in and he led them to a championship.
Yeah.
You know, it's just the ecosystem I think in St. Paul's that just breeds success.
Yeah.
That, you know, for them a successful season is nothing short of winning the Premier League, which is a top title,
Yeah.
or winning some form of trophy, and they just seem to be doing that year after year after year. But even with that, we did see some new champions coming through. Old Road finally breaking through. They won the FA Cup for the first time, and then of course at the tail end they won the Council Cup. In addition to that, their under-17 Tier 2 team went ahead to win that tournament. So you're talking about a club that won 3 trophies. So even though St. Paul's won the big one,
Yeah.
Old Road was probably the biggest winner because overall they won 3 trophies.
Well, they won in the present, but I definitely think that they won the future. As you said, they won the FA Cup, a very young squad. They competed very well in the Premier Division. They were one of the most exciting teams to look at.
The women's team made the finals.
The women's team, yes. And they won not only the under-17, but they won a host. Players from that area won a host of tournaments, junior tournaments.
During the tournaments, right?
So their team to definitely.
And the schools from that area who tend to do very well as well.
Yeah, so they're definitely a team to look at, not only now but for the future. I think they're building something that could last the test of time.
So Old Road, certainly a team to watch out for the future. And the women's team, as I said, they went to the finals. They won the title the year before, but they weren't able to defend it. And I guess we could segue into women's football, because women's football, we saw the rise of Newtown back again to the top. Newtown Football Club had a rough year overall as a club. We're going to talk a little bit about it. Let's talk about the women's team and the fact that the women's team, not only did they win the league, but they also won the President's Cup, which was introduced for the first time for the women's league. The fact that Newtown women are back, they've come back to the surface, they've competed well. I think they've only lost a few games in the league itself. What does this mean? Is it mean that the Newtown dominance in women's football has returned, or is it a case where, you know, they got lucky? Some may say.
I don't think it's luck. I don't think you winning a tournament across the entire season could be considered lucky. But the fact that they were able to bounce back after not winning last year, and it shows the growth of women's football, because it shows that instead of having one dominant franchise, we have multiple who could compete and create a sort of competition that we would want to see in the women's game. And that's the best way for it to get better and create more interest.
Yeah, the finals was very tense. Both teams were competing, going at each other, but eventually Newtown come out the winner. And then speaking of Newtown, again, as I said, they had a pretty rough year as a club, because for the first time in their history, they've been relegated to Division 1. I never thought the day would happen. They would come and I would see Newtown. That's like saying Manchester United getting relegated in this day and era.
And that could very well be a possibility as well, but that's for another conversation. But yeah, it was a rough season for Newtown United, the men's football team at least. They started the season well. People were giving them playoff shouts, but then
people were saying they were going to win the title.
There's somewhere along the line, it just fell apart, and they ended up in a relegation fight. They missed out on the automatic relegation, but they played a playoff, as we all know. And
which we thought they would have won.
Which I thought coming into they would have won comfortably, but they lost that as well, so they ended up being relegated. And not only them, but also Ghana Hotspurs. So in one season, the Premier League lost 2 of its greatest storied franchises to Division 1. So hopefully those 2 clubs could regroup, reevaluate, and come back again.
But that makes it for a very interesting Division 1 season, because you have 2 very good Premier Division clubs that got relegated. Not forgetting, of course, you had Trafalgar South Stars that also got relegated. And so Trafalgar South Stars and these 2 storied franchises. But again, Spurs was a shocker for me. But the writing was probably on the wall, because they did compete in the playoffs, the relegation playoff the year before, and they won comfortably. But again, the rigors of the Premier League, you know, it determined. But speaking of which, though, I thought the Premier Division last year was probably one of the most competitive we've seen in a long time. And to your point earlier, that National Bank would have sponsored at the right time, because it's certainly, the branding was benefited from this competitive league that we saw. At one point, up to 6 teams could have made a case for the playoffs.
Yes, we had 6 teams fighting for 4 playoff spots, which I don't think I've ever seen as competitive as it was last season, where going into the final round of games, we don't know who could have finished top or who could have finished 6th. So it was a good season for football enthusiasts, looking and following their clubs and following how close it was.
Yeah, indeed. So here we have a situation now, the Premier Division competitive. The Division 1 is going to be really competitive this season, because again, you have these 2 teams that are down. South Stars can fight on their own as well. And then you still have a team like Saddlers. That's also a very competitive team that could also, cause some interesting times in Division 1. So I think all eyes will be on Division 1 this season, in addition to the Premier Division. But let's talk quickly about Division 1 though. We see Security Forces coming up, winning the league, and they are going to be earning their spot back into the Premier League, along with Sandy Point. Sandy Point is coming up with them, and Mantab winning the playoff, which they were in the playoff last season. They didn't win it, so they're in it now. So 3 Division 1 teams moving up. Talk to us about Security Forces, because they now have Coach Iroy Jeffers, who used to coach the St. Paul's team and led them to many titles. Now he's taking up a new challenge, taking a team from Division 1, and I guess his aim is to try to get them to compete for the title. Yeah,
and I guess that the whatever he brought to them definitely worked, getting them back up into the Premier Division automatically, winning the Division 1 with games in hand and games to spare, rather. He's, as you say, a very experienced coach, a coach who has won many titles with SLS with St. Paul's. He won many titles as a player as well. So he knows the league very well. He knows the environment. He knows what it takes to remain in the Premier Division. And hopefully he could be the man to keep Security Forces in the division to get, I think, for the first time, back-to-back seasons in the Premier Division. Yeah. So we'll see how that works out. Before we end this segment, we definitely have to talk about youth football coming back. We've seen a lot of youth football happening. The league, the Under-13 league, had a sponsor in Rams group of companies sponsoring the Under-13 Premier Youth Cup, and Village Superstars winning all 3 top-tier divisions of youth league categories. That says something. And this is not the first time they've done this. This is now the second time in like 4 years that they've done this. Yeah, and it's definitely a mark to the level of football, the level of production in football that they have been having from that area. It shows that the Ramsbury Superstars team would have a nice little foundation they could work with in the future, a nice little young setup that they could work with in the future. So it's all well and good for them and local football and the whole that you can see that a community producing so much talent, so much young talent that could be the benefit of St. Kitts and Nevis football in the future.
Amazing. Well, we're going to end that there, and that's our discussion of football. Recapping, as I said, it's a very busy year in football for 2024, but we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to look at some other local sports and start our discussion on regional sports. You're watching From the Sidelines, the 2024 Year in Review edition. We'll be right back.
Are you tired of Wi-Fi dead zones in your home? The Cable has the ultimate solution with our whole home Wi-Fi coverage. Say goodbye to frustrating signal drops and hello to seamless connectivity in every corner of your home. No more
Mom, my tablet's not working in my bedroom. My game is freezing, Daddy.
or WhatsApp calls dropping as you walk around the house. So many people struggle with dead zones and restricted Wi-Fi, and the Cable has the answer. Enjoy full blanket increased Wi-Fi coverage with installation in 48 hours or less. Whole home Wi-Fi coverage is here. Get the whole family connected today. Come in or call the Cable at 465-2588 to get your whole home Wi-Fi boost installed. The Cable, always giving you more. Terms and conditions apply.
Good day to the beautiful people of St. Kitts and Nevis. St. Martin News Desk now airs on
Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays on TVC.
at 11 a.m. and then again at 5 p.m. So
Make sure to tune in.
At Digital Print Plus and Crafted by Design, We're thrilled to be your go-to print shop located in the heart of Bastille. From essential services like printing, copying, and laminating, to a diverse array of school supplies, arts and craft materials, and office essentials, we've got you covered. Don't fret, Digital Print Plus and Crafted by Design are here to stay and ready to be your trusted partners for all your printing and craft supply needs. Ready for a visit? Find us at the corner between Dillio and Princess Street. Just look for the vibrant pink and yellow building with white doors. We can't wait to welcome you to our creative haven.
And we're back with From the Sidelines here on TVC Channel 40. I'm your host, Andre Huie. This is the 2024 Year in Review edition. We're looking back on the year of sports in St. Kitts and Nevis, in the Caribbean, and around the world. Now, we spoke about football at length. We spoke about cricket at length. Now we're going to talk about the other sporting disciplines in St. Kitts and Nevis. We'll start with tennis, because tennis had a very interesting year. We've seen a number of the players. We didn't have a lot of local tournaments, but we had players, young players, traveling abroad to play in international tournaments. We've also seen players competing in Antigua and Barbuda. They've done well there. In fact, most of the players won in that tournament. And we also see a young tennis star being born in St. Kitts and Nevis. The daughter, one of the daughters of Atiba Harris, who is the president of the SKNFA, who has done very well, and she's gone international as well and performed well. Your thoughts on the tennis calendar for 2024? Very busy one.
Well, tennis has always been a sport that has impressed me. The Tennis Association, the way they have operated, and the way they work on grassroots coaching. Almost every day, if you come in here at Warner Park, you would see them you see some level of grassroots work being had at the tennis facilities. So it's always been a sport that has impressed me. I know they not only done the grassroots work, have had players going off to these tournaments. I know they have also done things like coaching courses and others. That sort of stuff that could be a good fit for tennis in the long term. But as you said, we saw the birth of a new star in Miss Harris, where she went off to, I think, St. Vincent, and she did well there. And then she went off to another tournament
in the US.
And also did well there as well. So that's something that to look forward to. That's a sport that also has opportunities that could be created, where scholarships are playing in tournaments for lucrative money. So that's something to encourage young people into getting into tennis. And as I always say, tennis is a sport. If I could live over my life, tennis is a sport that I would have taken more seriously.
I played it. I played it in school. I haven't played in a while, but it definitely is. You're right. It is a sport. It's a really nice sport to play.
Yeah.
It's good in terms of physical, building your physique and keeping you active, because of all you have to do on a tennis court compared to any other sport as an individual athlete. So it's a pretty good sport. Moving from tennis, we also saw track and field. Track and field is probably the next biggest sporting event after football and cricket, or maybe even after football. The track season at the early part of the year, the schools, both on St. Kitts and Nevis, there is a flurry of activity leading up to inter-school and leading up to the Gulf Insurance inter-primary school championships on Nevis. But your thoughts on the track and field setup for last year? We had a little situation last year because the Silver Jubilee Stadium, or the stadium known as the Kim Collins Stadium, was not available for inter-school. People had to travel to Nevis for the Nevis Athletic Stadium, and the fans here, most of the fans on St. Kitts, didn't quite seem to like that.
Yeah, it must have been challenging having to travel to Nevis to put on the track and field championships. And while I don't mind the championships being held in Nevis, it possibly would have created some logistical challenges as to like the multi-sport events where we had the field events being performed here in St. Kitts, and then having
the track
events in Nevis, where the multi-sport events where there's supposed to be a specific time period between each event. I guess there was a logistical challenge there. So I would suggest that if it's being held in Nevis, it should be held, the entirety of the tournament, the meet should be held in Nevis, including field and track events. But I guess the authorities would have had a better understanding of that than I would. The from all reports, it seems like it went down well in Nevis, as we saw Sims winning again. The Sims winning.
When will they ever break that Sims dominance? I don't know.
I really don't know. Many thought Charlestown would have been their year this year.
Yeah.
Having the home court advantage.
Yeah.
But Sims found a way still to continue their dominance. But it shows that we are at a point where we don't have to rely on one facility as well. Where if the Kim Collins facility is unavailable, we can always go to Nevis and vice versa. And it could even in the future, we could have it alternated where 1 year it's in St. Kitts
and 1 year is in Nevis. In fact, there was a suggestion that it should be done like that.
Yeah.
But then there's also the point, because you're making the point that, you know, fans and the teams here probably found it challenging to travel to Nevis.
Yeah.
But then the argument was made that the divisions also had to travel every year to St. Kitts to compete. So it's only fair that since a national championship, give Nevis a chance to host it sometimes.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair shout. But I still think it was unfortunate for the reasons why it ended up in Nevis, because of the unavailability of the Kim Collins Stadium. Hopefully this year we can see some work being done up there so it can be put back into...
Well, the assurances were provided by the sports minister that it will be ready in time for inter-school. So we'll wait and see.
Hopefully we can have that, because we also have to remember that there was a primary school championships that had to stay here in St. Kitts and go to Sandy Point. To compete. But hopefully we can remedy that situation at the Kim Collins Stadium, get a new track and upgrade the facilities so that the young athletes here can have a home as well.
Right. Basketball. We have to talk basketball because and even before we move on from track, I should say that Carifta had a creditable performance at the Carifta Games. Again, we saw some really good performances from some of our top athletes, and it could all as well. Again, the dominance of Jamaica, I think, is going to be hard to overcome. Yeah. But at the end of the day, when our athletes go to Carifta, it's about how well can they perform, how well can they improve on last year, the medal count, and also the times that are run by, and even distances jumped by some of our athletes.
Yeah, and that is true. And we saw the previous year, we saw us coming back with Dixon Thomas winning medals, and Kanye Samuel Francis winning a gold medal.
Yep.
He had the opportunity to defend that gold medal. I think he fell short. I think he got the silver this time. So, but it's a good opportunity. I would anticipate that it's a good experience for him. Although he didn't repeat, he still represented himself well, represented the country well, and did well overall.
All right, so let's take quickly now a look at basketball. The basketball season got off to a really good start. We saw teams that, in the end, the B Division team, Old Road, winning. Well, they eventually won the playoff. They lost the finals, but they won the playoff, and eventually got in. They're now in the Premier Division, and of course, the Premier Division teams being the Wolfpack, the team out of, I think they're originally from the McKnight area, or that McKnight Village, Legreed area. Well, it's a combination of players, I understand, that are from different communities. But the Wolfpack beating or dethroning Sandy Point. Sandy Point was having a stranglehold on the title. There was an incident, a very unfortunate incident, and I think it was game 2 or game 3 of that final series, which I think badly affected Sandy Point. There was a disciplinary issue. They had some players suspended, including the coach, and it somewhat impacted them on the outcome of the series because Wolfpack was able to capitalize on that. And eventually, we're not taking anything away from Wolfpack because I think that they competed well and they were ready to take the title. But at the same time, that incident, I think, marred the competitiveness that we wanted to see from both teams.
And it's an incident that we've always spoken about in football terms, where we always say that you can't let emotions get the better of you. It's always good to err on the side of caution when it comes to those high intensity moments. But as I said, to beat Sandy Point, who not only is the maker of track and field in St. Kitts, they're also the maker of basketball. They do very well.
They've taken over actually from Ghetto Roots. Ghetto Roots used to dominate basketball.
Yeah, they always do well at different levels of basketball. So for Wolfpack to to dethrone them, it says a lot. It says that the Basketball Association has a lot of, it has competition to look forward to. Let's say it that way. It has competition to look forward to where it won't be a one-team league or a two-team league. It has a very competitive setup that it can depend on.
Well, I could say easily that Road is going to be a team to reckon with. Now that they're back in the Premier Division. Wolfpack, of course, Sandy Point. And then we should be able to see something coming out of Keon, the Keon Lions as well. They've always been there and thereabouts, just haven't gotten over the hump. So we look forward. I think one of the things though that basketball, both the association and the players and all other basketball stakeholders are genuinely looking forward to is an indoor facility, because whenever it rains, if it drizzles, it disrupts the entire basketball match, the fixture, the schedule, everything.
Yeah, not only the rain, but the facilities itself for spectators is not the best. It's not the safest at times, because some of the seats, they're very I don't want to say unusable, but they're not great, but and they definitely need some work, so they definitely need a facility.
Yeah. And as we talk about National Bank group of companies came through for them as well. So shortly after that announcement for the football, it was also announced that they were sponsoring the Basketball Association, the Basketball League. Yeah. So there's a big sign right there, Basketball City, that they've also. All right. So again, we saw some really good things coming up for basketball for 2024. Before we end this segment, we have to talk about volleyball. We've seen some developments in volleyball. We've had a regional beach volleyball tournament being held here towards the middle to the latter part of the year. And some of our teams and athletes did very well in that. Beach volleyball seems to be becoming a novelty again, I should say, in St. Kitts.
Well, volleyball on a whole, because as I said, I'm in the park almost every day, and I've often seen where the interest in volleyball, where it has grown exponentially over the last few months, I would say. To end last year. So volleyball is something to look forward to. And the beach volleyball also, we see that almost every day there are some young people coming out to try and hone their craft in beach volleyball. So that's something to look forward to. And being from an island, we have to be better at least beach volleyball.
Yeah, exactly.
At least beach volleyball, because we have the facilities right here, free to use. For everybody. So I think we should be doing better there.
And netball, we saw last year as well, where the school netball was reintroduced back in the schools.
And it was very exciting. There were massive crowds in here, support cheering on the schools. If memory serves me, I think Camp Primary won the primary school version, and I want to say CFBC won the open women's version, and I can't recall who won the under 14. But there were often big crowds here watching on the netballers playing as well, and not only female netball, but there was also a male netball team tournament played in.
Yes, I was played early in the year. Yes,
played here, and
it was a regional tournament.
Yeah, regional tournament. Yeah. So netball has no going to waste. Not only a female sport, but a sport for everybody.
For everybody, indeed. All right, we're going to take a break at this point, and when we come back, it's regional and international sports to round out the show. We'll be right back.
Are you tired of Wi-Fi dead zones in your home? The Cable has the ultimate solution with our whole home Wi-Fi coverage. Say goodbye to frustrating signal drops and hello to seamless connectivity in every corner of your home. No more
Mom, my tablet's not working in my bedroom. My game is freezing, Daddy.
Or WhatsApp calls dropping as you walk around the house. So many people struggle with dead zones and restricted Wi-Fi, and the Cable has the answer. Enjoy full blanket increased Wi-Fi coverage with installation in 48 hours or less. Whole home Wi-Fi coverage is here. Get the whole family connected today. Come in or call the Cable at 465-2588 to get your whole home Wi-Fi boost installed. The Cable, always giving you more. Terms and conditions apply.
The SKN Newsline website now offers you more news. Log on to www.sknnewsline.com for local, regional, and international news. You can also watch the latest newscast and keep abreast with news in sports. all from sknnewsline.com. That's www.sknnewsline.com. News at your fingertips.
Good day to the beautiful people of St. Kitts and Nevis. St. Martin News Desk now airs on
Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays on TVC.
at 11 a.m. and then again at 5 p.m. So,
Make sure to tune in.
And we're back with the final segment here of the 2024 year in review edition of From the Sidelines, our sports show here on TVC Channel 40. I'm Andre Huie, your host, and my panelist is Loshaun Dixon of the St. Kitts Nevis Observer. Now, before the break, we basically covered most of the major stories in local sports in St. Kitts and Nevis, but there's one that we have to talk about before we move on from local sports, and it's the very unfortunate passing of the late Alfonso Bridgewater, the long-serving president of the St. Kitts Nevis Olympic Committee. He passed away early in the year, around the April thereabouts, and it was really indeed a disappointing time for the sporting fraternity in St. Kitts Nevis. Not just sports, but he was also a consummate professional. He was involved in so many different aspects of life here in St. Kitts Nevis, but he was well known for being the president of the Olympic Committee and his work in pioneering sports and the development of sports right across the board. Your thoughts on the contribution and the legacy of Alfonso Bridgewater?
Well, it's what heroes are made of, where first of all, he was a founding father of the Olympic Committee. He served as the president from its inception until his death. Yeah, the building, the Olympic office, that's on Taylor's Range, is now named in his honor. And it shows the magnitude of work, the scope of work that he would have played in the sports arena. He's known across multiple sports. He's known across in football, in cricket, in track and field, and others, many others, because because of his contribution, his willingness to work, his willingness to see the other sports develop and rise from just being a league being put on to actual organizations and franchises and clubs and what's not. So his contribution to sports, it would be very difficult to replicate. It would be very difficult for anyone to come and try and fill his shoes. But we lost a giant in the sporting arena, and we like to say condolences again to his family, his friends, and everyone who he had touched.
Yeah, indeed. And for me, I know him personally. I've interacted with him personally several times, and he has certainly been someone who has been an inspiration to me and to many others. So certainly his passing was disappointing, but his legacy lives on. And so we want to acknowledge that legacy as one of the highlights of 2024. All right, so we move on to international regional sports. Regionally, West Indies cricket not doing well in the World Cup last year. Again, another disappointment. I thought the way the team performed towards the latter end of the round robin, the first round, the group stage, they did fairly well. And then, of course, there was a lot of anticipation that they'll get to the semi-final round, and well, that didn't happen.
Yeah, it was disappointing to see the performances in the knockout rounds, where they came in with some momentum from the group stages, but they couldn't get across the line against South Africa, I think it was, where they fell short and they had to bow out in the playoff stages, and they didn't make the semi-finals. But all in all, it was a good test for new head coach Darren Sammy at the time. So he got the boys up. There was some positives, but overall, I think they would be disappointed not to at least make the semi-finals of a hosted World Cup tournament.
Right. And in addition to that, we also saw where there was a lot of discussion about St. Kitts and Nevis, coming back home, did not bid to host any of the games. Considering how things transpired, was that a missed opportunity?
Definitely, because I think it was probably the most looked at T20 World Cup in history, where we saw for the first time the American market joining in on the World Cup. We all know that we have like the likes of the Indian and the Bangladeshi market, who are large markets as well. So it was a missed opportunity, definitely, especially from a country that that boasts of how we love our sports tourism. I think that was a definite opportunity. That was a missed opportunity. We saw how the World Cup, not only hosting the World Cup, but the legacy that the World Cup has left, and a country like St. Vincent, where now they have a cricket facility well lit, and they, beyond the World Cup now, they're hosting international games at night.
Yeah.
So it was a missed opportunity for us here in St. Kitts and Nevis not to have hosted the World Cup.
And then, of course, when you listen to Barbados, who that hosted the finals, they were able to, I mean, tourism dollars, I mean, the hotels were booked, the taxi drivers had a lot of work to do at that period. So it did have a ripple effect in terms of the contribution to the economy.
Yeah, but as you said, in Barbados, even weeks before they even entered the competition as a host, you couldn't get a hotel room, you couldn't even get a rental. So it's something that it's dollars that we would have missed out on, but I guess the authorities had other ideas, and we didn't bid as a result.
We didn't bid, yep. Anyway, moving on from that though, we also saw where the teams that competed in the different competitions. From a regional perspective, we had, and it's also / international, the Olympic. It was an Olympic year. It was a major year. It was a lot of anticipation. The Caribbean in the end, though, performed exceptionally well. Not as well as people had imagined in terms of, I think a lot of people were expecting the Jamaican athletes to dominate. That didn't happen this time around, and there's some Jamaicans who felt it was a bad year. Imagine you pick up, a few medals. You got 1 gold medal, but you got medals in field events, which you've never gotten before. And many Jamaican fans think it was a bad year. But it was a great year for the Eastern Caribbean because you saw 2 gold medalists coming out of the Caribbean, out of the Eastern Caribbean, in Dominica's Thea Lafon and Julian Alfred of St. Lucia winning gold medal in the 100 meters.
Yes, and overall it's been a strong year for those 2 athletes, but it's been a strong year for athletes of the Eastern Caribbean, because we also had the guy from Grenada who did
the 2 Grenadian athletes actually, they won the decathlon,
the decathlon
and the javelin.
Yes, so
bronze medals. Yeah.
So it's been a strong year for the Eastern Caribbean, the Windward Islands countries, to say the least. And as while you said the Jamaicans didn't dominate as they normally would have or would have liked to, the smaller islands per se stepped up and carried some of that weight. And as I said, Julian, Alfred, and Lafon, they won the first ever Olympic medals for their countries. They're now heroes within their countries, and it was a big year for them, especially St. Lucia, because remember St. Lucia also
they won the CPL.
Yeah, so,
at a time when everybody thought they were going to lose it.
Yeah, so
it was a good sporting year for St. Lucia.
It was a good year for St. Lucia, definitely.
Yeah, we forgot to mention that. But even with Julian's performance and her success, she's so humble. She's such a humble person, and I think, and I was even looking at it today while preparing for the show, that I believe that Julian can dominate female sprinting for some time to come. Despite the competition that is coming from the US and Jamaica traditionally, I think if she remains focused, she can really have a stranglehold on, because she had a really good season. It wasn't just the Olympics. The Olympics was, and I think she eventually won the Diamond League title as well. The Olympics is just part of it, but she had a good indoor season. And there were signs leading up that she was going to do something special. And I expected her to do well in the 100 meters at the Olympics. I don't think I had her for gold, but I expected her to do well. Yeah,
and I anticipated that she was going to do well, but although she won it, initially going into it, it was an open race. It was one of the closest 100 meters races ever. The keenly contested 100 meter races ever. In the end, she won it convincingly, but going into it, no one knew. It could have been her, it could have been Sharika, she could have been Shakari, So
and Sharika didn't get to compete. And also Shelley Fraser-Price, which was her last Olympics. She didn't get a chance to compete, which is unfortunate. But again, congratulations to Julian Alfred. And like I said, I expect her to build on this going forward and actually excel further.
Yeah, and it was also said that she didn't get to do the sprint double, but it was always.
But she got a silver, so that's.
It was always going to be tough.
Yeah.
Coming back off the higher.
To still win and to still win a medal
to win 100 meters, and days after to go through the rounds again. And then
that's always tough for anybody to do.
It would have been tough.
All
but she still did well.
And she got a silver medal, so you can't frown on that.
Yeah.
And speaking of it, we're going to the men's side. We saw Kishane Thompson of Jamaica, a new superstar. He was the favorite going into the final because of how he performed in the semifinals. And he just missed by a hair. In fact, the times that were recorded were the same for him. But again, Noah won because his torso was slightly ahead, just by an inch.
And
one of the closest 100 meters we've seen in a while.
I think it was a disappointment for Kishane not to have at least push his body forward and get over the line. But hey, no lies, he had to come from behind. He was up against it and he found a way. And that's what champions do. Champions always find a way. Even when it's against them, they come back and fight. But
you realize this is the first time in 20 years that America's won the 100 meters at the Olympics.
Well, I didn't.
Men.
I didn't.
20 years. Yes. The last person to do it was Justin Gatlin in 2004. Usain Bolt came on the scene and dominated those Olympics. And then the last Olympics was an Italian who won it. So an American has never won the 100 meter men in 20 years. And then you could also fairly say in the last 10 years that the women's 100 meters still remains in the Caribbean. Because the Caribbean athlete has always won the 100 meters since 2008. So that is an excellent performance again. So congratulations to all the Caribbean athletes that did well at the Olympics and certainly held the flag high. One of the things I must say before we move on from this though is how well the field athletes have performed. I think in the Caribbean we put a lot of attention on track. But the field athletes actually represented. Jamaica won 3 medals, including a gold in field events. Was it 3 or 4? I think it was probably 4 in field events, which Jamaica traditionally hasn't been strong in terms of medal count. Long jump, triple jump, shot put, and discus. So that's 4 field medals. And then you have Dominica winning the triple jump. And Grenada, right? So the field events seem to be an area which the Caribbean has always been performing well and is now taking its claim in those events, especially at the international level.
Yeah, the field event is, as you said, is something that we seem to like. It's there, but we never really take it seriously from a Caribbean standpoint. But if we can go on and win medals now, as we've seen, these guys do, and girls, we should. It's something that we should take seriously. Something that we should look into and try and get athletes who probably may be good in the track as well, but there might be an opportunity for them in the field events to push them in that direction.
Right. Quickly, let's talk about 2 major football events internationally that happened last year. We had the Copa America and Euro. They were happening conjointly. We had finals one day and then the next day we had the finals for the other. Very interesting. I haven't quite seen that happen in a long time. But let's start with Copa America. Lionel Messi staking his claim as one of the greatest to ever play the game, winning Copa America in a very dramatic fashion against an opponent that traditionally in South America are 2 of the biggest rivals in football.
Well, Argentina again continue to show they're not only Copa America champions, but they're also world champions. Where they have been doing very well at international level the past 3 years. We've seen, as you said, Messi stake his claim to be one of the greatest of all time. But not only that, we've seen the likes of Emi Martinez staking a claim to be
one of the best goalkeepers.
One of the best goalkeepers currently in world football. We've seen the likes of Christian Romero stake a claim to be one of the best centre backs based on what he's won in the last few years. Also, like Enzo Fernandez and others. So Argentina, despite all the difficulties the country itself has had last year, the football team continues to put a smile on the faces of many in Argentina.
Indeed. And the thing about it too is that when you look at how they did it, coming off the back of a successful World Cup campaign, they won the last Copa America in 2021. So they're 2 back-to-back Copa America champions. And then, of course, winning the World Cup is just unbelievable for them. They've really staked their claim as one of the best teams right now in international football.
Yeah, and it's good momentum going to a World Cup that will be next year now. Because
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a good momentum to carry to defend their World Cup title. It will be a difficult World Cup title to win. It's the first expanded World Cup. It will be played in the USA, as the Copa America was last year. So it's left to be seen, but it's a good momentum carrier for them.
Yeah, indeed. And finally, Euros. The Euro we saw the Spain winning, going back to the top of it, and they have some really exciting young players. Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams. These are players that are in high demand from other clubs. Clubs want to buy them. And Nico Williams was high on the list for a lot of Premier League clubs.
Yeah.
Spain coming up and England again falling short. So I want you to talk about Spain's resurgence and England's failure again to win a major trophy.
Well, Spain, going into the tournament, I didn't have Spain even making the semi-finals, and for them to go on to win the tournament shows what I know. What I don't know football, but at the end of the day, they were definitely the best team in the tournament. I think they went the whole tournament undefeated. They had some hiccups even in the finals when England fought back, but they found a way to they found a way to get a go-ahead goal and retain the Euros title that they won a few years ago. It's a completely different team to the team that won it with Busquets and Iniesta and Xavi.
Yep.
It's a completely
different team. A young core.
A young core, as you said. They have a lot of talent running to that team from front to back, but in the end, I think it came down to good coaching, because I felt I can't remember his name now. The coach for Spain, he found a way to blend these young players and these players who are playing all over Europe, get them into one setup and coach them to success.
Yeah, amazing. And for England, I mean, that result led to the departure of their coach in Southgate, Gareth Southgate.
Well, where Southgate took England from to where he took them to, I think that has to be commendable. But in
two major finals.
Two back-to-back
finals, yeah.
But I think in the end, the job was just a bit too much for him. He during the Euros, there were some moments where you thought, why is he so defensive against teams that England should be walking over? But he chose to be more defensive, and it opened the game up more for an upset. But in the end, he got them to the finals. They were down in the finals. He made some changes. They leveled the game, and then they just couldn't get over the line.
Just a moment of brilliance. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think you can hate yourself for losing to a team like Spain and the way they played. So you could probably forgive him for losing this finals. The one they lost to Italy, they were the favorites. They should have won that.
At home.
At home at Wembley, exactly. So, but again, you're right. He took them from a place of obscurity to where they actually had an identity, but unfortunately just couldn't get over the line.
And I think then the new coach, Thomas Tuchel, I think he could be a coach to get them over the line. I believe he's one of the better tournament coaches in Europe. So I think he could be the man to finally get them another tournament.
Well, we'll see. And I think they deserve it in a sense. The World Cup is going to be much difficult for them to do that, but you never know. You could see what happens. Well, Loshaun, we'll thank you again for being here and for recapping the year of sports. It was so much to talk about. We managed to cram it in the few minutes that we had here. And thank you, the viewers, for watching this show, and thank you for your support in 2024. We look forward to your continued support as we're looking to come up with exciting new shows, new episodes and new interviews of From the Sidelines. We'll talk to sports makers here in St. Kitts and Nevis and around the world. Thank you again, and do stay tuned to TVC Channel 40 if you're watching on tvcplus.live or on our social media networks. Thank you so much, and do stay tuned. We have more coming your way. I'm Andre Huie, I was your host, and this has been From the Sidelines, the 2024 Year in Review edition.